Okay, while they sort out the microphone there, it's my pleasure to introduce Kate Sargent. Kate has been the repository manager for the University of South Australia Library since 2007. Prior to that, she was the bibliographic access coordinator responsible for cataloguing. She has a strong background in establishing and managing digital collections. She is experienced in managing cataloguing and digital modules of repository and library management systems, system and data migrations, and implementing and optimising workflows and processes for cataloguing and digital asset management. But you can see the title of her presentation on the screen.
Yeah, it's not a funky or cute title. So today I'm just going to give you some context of our repository history and Alma. Before, I'm not going to do a live demo. I've got screenshots because I don't trust the system, time, etc. And I'm not feeling brave today. But, oh, and there's nothing worse than finding a typo in your first slide, is there? Anyway, those who know me know spelling's not my strength. Anyway, our repository history is much like most universities in Australia. We started in the mid-2000s as part of the Arrow project, like many universities started around that time. We've had a number of different repository systems. We started with Vital Fedora and we moved into digital in 2010. When we moved into digital, we always knew it was a temporary measure because we knew Alma was coming and the long-term plan was for the repository to be in Alma. So that was good because it wasn't a favoured system. In 2015, there was a university-wide project that overhauled publications collections across the university, and the library became the source of truth for publication data. As part of that, we moved to Alma for our repository, even though Alma Digital wasn't available yet. And we did that because we needed to get our data out and into our enterprise data warehouse. And digital didn't work for us the way we wanted it to. So what we did in a temporary measure was to treat our repository files and objects as electronic resources and use the Alma electronic resource management component with a locally built file store. But then last year, finally, we were very excited to move into Alma Digital and return to treating our digital objects in a digital asset management system. It was kind of interesting for me because when we went into Alma, it was like going home for me, having a cataloguing management background. But then I did miss the repository side of things with a digital asset manager, and I do feel Alma mixes the best. I should also mention we've always used Mark XML for our repository. I'm not a fan of Dublin Core at the best of times. So being in a library cataloguing system worked for us as well because we had the detailed and rich metadata. But Alma didn't, as I said, when we started, it didn't have digital, and it's never completely had all of the functionality we've wanted for our managing our digital collections, particularly as we've been early adopters. And if you think of our services dashboard, which I'm going to show you today, it's had 3 phases, and they won't be the last because we continue to adapt, evolve, and develop. To start with, in that early stages, we needed to be able to generate handles. So for those of you who don't know what a handle is, it's a persistent identifier. Repositories very much like them. So we needed to be able to link our handle and our handle server to our repository object in Discovery. And we also needed to be able to manage our files, load them into our local store and link them and connect them to our metadata in Alma. The second phase saw the development of templated emails, and it's a really simple thing, but emailing academics requesting accepted manuscripts to promote and push open access is time consuming. Even using templates in an email system, people put it off. The procrastination factor is high. So basically, and you'll actually get to see it, we've got a choice of templates. It pulls the citation out of Alma, and you can edit it and put in, you know, a name or so, but you just hit send. It's so easy. I can do it, and Jenny can do it. we try to discourage Jenny from doing it, but it doesn't always work. And then the final phase last year happened because there was a review of all our repository workflows and processes. And we kind of took the services dashboard and put it on steroids. And that's really what I'm going to be showing you today. Just to explain how stuff gets into our repository, and it's really interesting looking at Espero in detail because we've come up with a lot of the solutions for us that would potentially solve. We get records that are submitted directly by a researcher using our deposit form. We use an in-house UniSA generic data business process thing called Appian. It's used for forms across the university, but we were one of the first forms to use Appian. There's now now you can barely find it because we're right, there's like a list. We harvest predominantly from Web of Science and Scopus, and we use both Web of Science and Scopus APIs for that harvest and combine them with the Alma APIs for adding bib records. And then we also use the services dashboard for the library pushing records into Alma. All our records land into Alma as suppressed records. And what we find is when there's a backlog of work, at the moment we're in a quietish period, but when you've got hundreds of records sitting in your in bucket, it can be really hard to prioritise. So we try to prioritise submitted stuff from our researchers before stuff that the library has gone and found. And we also do things like prioritise journal articles over conference papers because you can smash out more journal articles and get through more work than getting stuck on that one obscure, weird conference paper that you could spend the rest of your day doing. So we've used Alma sets to manage our workflows right from the beginning. And here, sorry for the people at the back, I've tried to make them as big as possible. We've got incoming sets, and we usually split into onboarding, so new academics to the university when we're adding all their CVs, the records we've harvested from Web of Science and Scopus, and then just the everything bucket. It's the not search as a logical set doesn't necessarily work as easy as we'd like. One of the challenges we find is that even with the configurable new UI for Alma, the data we care about because it's repository, you know, who submitted it is in an obscure field that we only care about. We put the resource type, so journal article, conference paper, in as a genre field. That screenshot doesn't demonstrate it, but if you've got a lot of keywords, you can lose your journal article, so you don't know what resource type you're looking for. So we started to use the dashboard. So this is just the home screen of the dashboard. It's authenticated, so repository services team get to see the whole lot. All library staff can see, I think, the incoming sets. They can sort of see up to a certain point. But this is our Crow incoming sets. So you're looking at those three same sets in Alma, but you're looking at it here. And if you click on them, what you get is a table that's pulled out the 5 things that we care about when we're looking to sort our priorities. So you can see who submitted it. And like the person who was talking about, you get to know your data. We know Jackie's one of ours. So that's an onboarded submitted by us. These are researchers or research admin in the schools. And then we've got our harvest records down the bottom. We can sort these in the table. We can sort by date added. We can sort by resource type. We can sort by pub type. So the team can find what we can have someone working on submitted stuff and someone working on harvest stuff. Sorry, I went too quick. To get into a record, you click on manage and it throws you into the dashboard. Now we still use Alma metadata editors to do the bulk of the cataloging. But what we do here is, and I should probably catch up with my notes so that I remember what I'm saying. We have, in repositories, we have a lot of tools that we use. We used to send out emails to new staff members with a list that long of, here's all the tools that you'll need to use to catalog a thing. And it was overwhelming. They've all been brought here. And using APIs, it's not just you can click on Google and find Google, but it'll do a Google title search for you. If you're using the, so we've got canned title searches, we've got identifier searches that will look up the DOI. It'll look up the DOI in Web of Science, Scopus in Google. You can look up ULRICs if it's got the ISSN in the record. If you don't have a DOI, admittedly this one does, it's linking into our URL resolver so that we can potentially find the full text if we've got it. Most commonly, we link into the full text using the DOI because we catalogue from the published version. We haven't strayed too far from our cataloguing roots. But we've also got the ability, down this side is just a link to, so Web of Science and Scopus and ULRICs if you don't have any identifiers to work. But we also have, one of my favourite things, our interlibrary loan form, which has been known to move on our website, so you can't always find it. We don't use it that often, but we use it often enough. But not only that, is it pre-populates the form. Admittedly, it works best if you've got a DOI, and we usually don't need an interlibrary loan for them. But whatever metadata it can pull, it does, and we don't have to do that data entry, and we also don't have to go looking for the form. The next section of our dashboard, so this is just going down the screen, we collect a lot of additional metadata about our researchers for our enterprise data warehouse. So we need staff IDs, we need affiliations, and repositories put the authors in numbers so you know who the first author is and the last author is. We can have publications with hundreds of authors. We love those. We only usually enter up to 20. My team get very upset when they've got like 19 or 20 because they have to do all of them. If they've got 21, there's a rule. That means they only have to enter however many. What we've got here is it's looking at that Alma record. We can make, I haven't gone into edit, but if this was in edit, you could actually change the metadata here. We also link into the affiliation database in our enterprise data warehouse. We need to use their affiliations so that they get the lovely map on their staff homepage that shows that they collaborate here, there, and everywhere on the world map. So this particular system is looking into that. It's a Cognos database that we can access and search, but it's slow. Doing it here is really, really quick. And if you actually clicked on the name, if you didn't have the right name down here, if you clicked over here, it populates it in here, so there's no keying, no data entry errors. Diacritics get a bit messy, but we won't go there today. We also have, up the top, we've got author information that's come through, so it's matched based on names. And it links through with the little eye icon next to the 700 so that we can see their details. We can see the LIB is their organisation code, so we can see they're from the library, but it also links through to our staff homepage, which we can get, we like when we address our academics to call them professor or doctor or Ms, depending on what they are, and we can also check details as well. Our publication data eventually does flow through to the outputs section of the staff homepage as well, so those connected dots are really, really important. So normally up to this point we've also done cataloguing in Alma, we've saved our record. When we first migrated to Alma Digital, representation, adding a representation wasn't available from the metadata editor. There was a slight frustration. So one of the reasons why we've got representations, the ability to add a representation here is that. But the other frustration we had, and that is still true, is we use a controlled vocabulary for the repository for the file label. So we use open access published version, open access preprint, etc. We couldn't force that controlled vocabulary in Alma, and working through the form was time consuming. It's much quicker to do it here. We can actually add the representation with the record still open in the metadata editor. The other thing, we put our repository archiving licensing information into the licensing module of Alma. And that then it's available using the licensing, like you can see it in Primo, you can see it in Alma, but this is at point of need. So it's pulling out that we can upload the accepted manuscript with an 18-month embargo. And that was another pain point for the team. They'd have to go to a spreadsheet. They'd have to, this is Taylor and Francis, you'd have to go find the Taylor and Francis spreadsheet as opposed to the Elsevier spreadsheet. What Lachlan Young has been able to do with, so where we can, we've put that license information for the whole collection, but Taylor and Francis, Elsevier, Wiley, our favourite journal providers aren't that uniform. So what Lachlan and Avon Newton in my team have done is identify the journal titles within those collections, their embargoes, and Lockie has been able to somehow, you can talk to him, he's here, load that so that it's gone in at the title level. So depending on what the access conditions is and how it's linked through, the team can easily see what is there. If there isn't licensing information, there's the link to our copyright spreadsheet, which is ugly, so I definitely haven't shown you that. But it also links through to Sherpa, either using the ISSN or the titles, so that we can go exploring and finding information there. So it means that when you go to add your representation, you know, and I mean, I've just made up that it's a published version that we're just archiving, so it's not going to be publicly available. You can use the browse, choose, file, etc., or you can do the drag and drop, which pretty much works exactly the same way as it does in Alma. Create representation and off it goes. It loads it up into Alma. Where we've had someone actually attach a post print to their submission, I will tell you sometimes it's not a post print, but you know, we're going with optimistic. Actually, it's a document, so it probably is the post print. We work through the same process. You can choose your access rights and your label, but instead of uploading a file, you can click it using the create representation with this file down the bottom, and it will attach that document. So you don't have to download it and then upload it. I mean, we do because we have to convert it to a PDF in this particular case, but ideal worlds. And it is a step that we don't have to take. And it also means, so that's attaching the file from its temporary location where it's been parked from that submission form. Creating a handle and unsuppressing records. One of our biggest data quality issues was the fact that we would forget to unsuppress the record in Alma. If you've used Alma, metadata editor, it's kind of a bit buried under a couple of menus. So given that minting a handle is the last thing we do when we process a record, we've added the ability to unsuppress. So you mint your handle, it unsuppresses the record, no one forgets, which is good. The other feature that this part of the services dashboard does is it will actually put that handle in your record. So there's no data entry required, no mistakes in getting that unique identifier wrong, which would be bad, or forgetting to put it in, which is also bad. But the other thing is where we are able to mint a DOI, we use the ANZ, the Australian National Data Services DOI minting service. So for reports, I will confess this is a University of Iowa report, so it wouldn't actually be something we mint a DOI for. But once you've minted the handle, you can actually pull the data from Alma and mint a DOI from here. So it pulls the Alma data and then it publishes it to the ANZ API using that service. We also mint DOIs for our research data sets, but they're held in our data management, data access portal, and we have to fill out the form manually. This is so much better. It's on the cards for the plan. It's something I keep mentioning from time to time. The final section is our email. So here we've got a few different things. So we've got a variety of templates, post-print required, gold open access. So you've published gold, OA, yay. The most common one we send out is give us your accepted manuscript, please. But we're notifying them that it's been published. It's got the citation in the email that we've pulled from Alma. It's also pulled the handle, and that will take them into raw discovery. Because we've got a 6-hour delay to publish to raw discovery, we actually are able to delay the email going for 6 hours as well. So no one should be getting an email pointing them to raw discovery and they get a dead link. It's happened like twice, so that's pretty good. We can add in email addresses. We can change it. See, Jenny, I made you a doctor. We usually, you know, we like to call our professors professors and our doctors doctors, and we like to suck up to our boss. And I have to say the email thing is the single most significant improvement for the team as far as workflow processing goes. It's amazing. The simple things keep them happy-ish. We also use the dashboard for a variety of data quality components. So as I said, we publish to the Enterprise Data Warehouse. Our business intelligence planning unit care very much about the data we give them. They have a Cognos report that we can access through Cognos, but it takes a while to run. This can be accessed by anyone in the team. It doesn't have to be, you know, we need to add so-and-so. We also use it to link through. So some of them aren't actually problems. So these are single name authors. BIP are looking for surname, comma, first name. These are people who only have one name. We can see easily what the problem is and whether or not it is a problem. And then different reports have different formats. It's quicker, easier, and really easy to track. We also have the record enhance. So for our older records that don't meet current standards, they might be missing data, and this is a 2010, I think, record, so it is really quite old and crusty. Using the DOI, it's looking at Web of Science and Scopus. We've got an XML section that you can edit if you're comfortable doing XML, not that most of my staff are these days. But it also shows you at the end, and sorry, trying to squeeze a long thing. You can see from the boxes, the blue boxes are Web of Science. So we've got the abstracts come through from Web of Science. No, it hasn't. Scopus, sorry. We've got publisher and keywords coming through from Web of Science. We've got an author that's fallen off, that's gone in. So this is a way, you still got to go in the record and update and edit it in Alma, but you're getting it as full as possible before that stage. And for some of our really old records that are a problem, that's been really valuable. We also have the publication lookup. So using DOI, which is preferred because it will pull from both Scopus and Web of Science, but it will also work with Web of Science IDs and Scopus IDs. It will pull up records. It'll bring it up in a list. You can see the entire MARC record. Because we're often doing this for onboarding, we can, any records that we want to ingest into Alma, and you just tick a box, work down the list. You can tick the onboarding box. It will flag it as onboarding, so it will turn up in our onboarding workflow and set. We can also do the same thing with using the ORCID for an academic. This shows quite nicely that both the publication lookup and the ORCID person lookup is actually looking in Alma for those IDs. So if there is an existing record, it will tell you there's an existing record and here's where it is. And these are the bits of data that might be missing from your record. And that's it. Sorry I got fast towards the end. I got the timer and I'm like, you know, I'm standing between me and people's dinner. No pressure.
Very ugly proposition. So thanks everyone. I hope you've had an enjoyable first day of the conference. We do have a few closing issues that I need to cover. Just a reminder.